iPhone 4, iPad 3 generation was really good. People think because it's simple, there's some kind of magic tool to develop it, and you kind of put yourself through a process, and you can become, kind of a perfect communicator. The thing is that you read a book, and it's a book that's called Insanely Simple. If you're interested in understanding how to become better at marketing your product as a small business, read the book. It's by Ken, I forget the guy's surname, Ken somebody who was the advertising creative for Apple through most of the Steve Jobs second chapter. And it's amazing to read. I kind of try and read it as often as I can, because every time you read, you see something different. But everyone looks at the process about, how you got to something like this changes everything, or 1,000 songs in your pocket. The process was that they sat on that for 9 months, and they tweaked it and went back and looked at it, and they were, trying to find out whether they could improve it. It started out as 20 words, ended up as 7 words, 6 words, 5 words. To get down to something that's clean, you've got to do a lot of work to it. It takes time to come down to something like that. And it's not something that Steve Jobs was a lot of things, and I think one of the things that he wasn't acknowledged for as much, he was called genius and amazing kind of marketer and PR and whatever. The big thing that nobody really recognises outside of the community, he was one hell of a product manager. That was what he was. That was the thing that made him what he was, and has made Apple the company that it has become, because he understood what the market wanted before the market wanted it, and that came a lot from intuition, a lot from talking to people. He understood how to develop it and how to validate out product development so that you got a finished product that was exactly what the market wanted, even though they may not have known it at the time, and he knew how to market the hell out of it, and tell it in a way that people realised after him that they needed the product that he was launching. But there's no magic bullet, there's no one recipe. So all of these things you read online, they say do this and you get this result. It doesn't take into account context. And a lot of it is context that you can only get from talking to small groups of people that are likely to become your target customer. So we've covered a lot of ground quite quickly. Are there any questions? Anything of anything I've said or something I've not said?
You assembled a small group. What's in it for them?
Partly, it will depend on the motivation. But one of the things is that a lot of people nowadays like to be involved at the start of things. Some people will do it purely for philanthropic reasons because they value their industry. A lot of it is done also on social relationships as part of developing or validating the business idea, validating the product or service idea. You build a network of people. There are people in there that would be very happy to help you, one, because they like you, because they think you've got something good and want to help you make the most out of it. Oftentimes as well, you'll find customers or potential customers for the product that you know that they need it. They may not know that at that point, but if you can engage them in a way that demonstrates that you might be able to help them, then once they realise that you have something that could potentially solve the problem that they have, then they'll want to help you because, one, they'll look for incentives like price reductions or actually fine-tuning the product so it suits their specific requirement. But it's about, that's part of having the conversation, it's understanding what the motivation is, it's about doing the research because you find in certain industries the context of the market will change. So whilst they wouldn't have had a reason for being involved in helping you 3 months ago, all of a sudden something changes, they realise they need something, so then all of a sudden they have an interest in helping you develop a product which is potentially going to help them either avoid or overcome a problem they're going to experience in their business. So it's a combination of things, and it's finding which one of those is specific to each person.
When someone comes to you with an industry that you have little experience about, what's your process for finding those top 10 influencers?
A lot of it is research. I mean, it's one of those things where the traditional model of going out to lots of people for PR is about relationships, about knowing journalists. But if those journalists aren't, the people that they need to be influencing, it's pointless. And even journalists that I know really really well. If I phone them up with a story they're not interested in, they'll say, come on, really? You know me well enough to know that's not my thing. So a lot of it now is research. It's just understanding who those influencers are. Sometimes they're traditional journalists, sometimes they'll be non-traditional journalists or bloggers. Sometimes they'll be analysts or there'll be people in the market. And it's finding out, again, it goes back to things change very quickly. Finding out at the time that you're developing the MVP or you're looking to take it to market, who those people are. And researching them and understanding. There's this big thing about if you have a blog now, you can position yourself as an expert. Reality is that very few people that write blogs about anything are experts. There are probably 2 or 3 people that write blogs about things that are experts. And when you read the blogs, they become very clear. The rest are just lots of people with lots of views on things that don't necessarily stack up. And if you understand the market well enough, you'll be able to identify who those are. So we work with clients on a number of different ways. One is they'll know kind of who they are, and they just want validation of it. So we do some of the validation where we'll phone up and be, rather than the entrepreneur phoning up and validating that that person is actually as knowledgeable as they are, we can do that so that then when they phone them up, there's kind of no connection. They've not already had that kind of introduction where they're kind of fishing for information. But a lot of it is reading. A lot of it is reading opinions and becoming knowledgeable in certain industries.
And so it's not so much about how big their audience is, but how receptive they might be to you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because the thing is that if you, it's one of those things I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. So if you take a publication that has 300,000 subscribers or 300,000 readers on an average week, so that's a daily. We have 300,000 readers Monday to Friday. If you take the rule in sales that, if you set, so it's kind of a rule of sales and direct marketing. If you take the total number of people you send it to, 5% of those will open it. 5% of the 5% will be people that are actually interested or have a need. 5% of the 5% of the 5% will be people that will take action as a result of having opened the email because they're interested in it. Because they saw it, then 5% of that is probably conversion rates. You take the 300,000, use the traditional PR model, you're probably talking to 7.5 people. So why not just talk to those 7.5 people and develop something which they're receptive to, rather than trying to do something which you're trying to capture 100,000 people because you don't really know who those 7.5 are. Another way to raise awareness of people with the people that you think are credible. And it's part of validating as well, is to get involved in the blogs. Because if you've done the research to understand your industry, well enough to start a company that's servicing that market, then by having conversations with them through comments on their blog posts or, LinkedIn's a good place for LinkedIn groups, and starting conversations, you'll find 1, people that are receptive, you'll find 2 people that do know what they're talking about rather than people that think they know what they're talking about and tell other people they know what they're talking about. And also you build that awareness as well. So that if you're regularly commenting on somebody's blog, they'll know that. They'll realise that you have a vested interest, that you have a level of understanding that, then when you go to talk to them about a product or service, you've already got that kind of initial awareness because you've actually been giving something back before you're asking them to do something for you. And that's one of the big things about doing PR. I would say for all companies, but it's more so for small companies. It's actually give before you expect to receive. This whole relationship about companies send out press releases and they phone journalists up and say, "Well, you're going to write about my business or my client's business or whatever." It's like it's all one way. They don't have a relationship with them outside of the time they don't have a press release. So make sure that you're being involved in these people because it helps you to filter, it helps you to see the ones that actually really do get it, the people that really do have influence.